Greetings and welcome to the Ngoma Zethu podcast, episode 5. In this episode, we'll be talking about the freedom of tyranny. The word freedom is a word that's used all the time. Uh, Special freedom fighters or somebody who's been in bondage, somebody who wants to be free, who's in captivity. We can talk about, like, if let's say you had to trap an animal, whether like a squirrel, you had like a trap outside your house, and you put in some nuts in there and you trap it. And once the squirrel realizes that it's been trapped, it's going to try to find whichever way throughout that little trap to get out. That means it is in some form of tyranny. It's been trapped. It cannot live according to its wishes like it does when it's in the garden. It can just go up and down and do whatever it wants to do. But this time, it's trapped. And same with the animals. In the zoo, they are under some form of tyranny. They can't just leave when they want to. Now, somebody provides some food for them, or they might say we're providing these services, but in some ways, they had no part in making a decision that I wanted to be in a zoo. Somebody has made that decision for them. So the freedom of tyranny, in this case, I'm talking about our species, human beings, how we use freedom to perpetrate tyranny or oppression against other group of people. That's very common. Like, I would say that 70% of freedom is based on that. On oppressing other people. That's your idea of freedom. That's like what it's all based upon. Because somebody who's free has no reason to be shouting freedom every day, because that's not how it works. You don't have to shout about freedom. It doesn't work like that. When you're free, you're free. All right. And so I'm going to talk about how indigenous people, that includes my people, African people, how their oppression, their bondage was tied to somebody else's freedom. That person was free. Yeah, that's his freedom to enslave this group of people or to colonize this group of people because he has freedom. That's his idea of freedom. So when I say freedom of tyranny, it's what pretty much we live under today. This whole idea to the world order we live under today is established and was established under the freedom of tyranny, where you have a group of people that have their idea of freedom is based on other people's bondage, enslavement. You got to enslave this group of people, or you have to colonize them, and then you make laws for these people. And you even put signs that said, okay, you're not allowed here, blacks only, whites only. And at the same time, when they're making those signs, they are calling themselves free people. They are free because I guess as long as you're making the rules for somebody else, you are free. And it's important that our people, especially African people, black people, do understand that freedom, the idea of like real freedom, like real freedom, you have to do like what we call soul searching. You have to look deep and say, what is freedom? Can somebody who has about 7, 8 people locked in his basement, they cannot leave. He might give them food, he gives them water, but the reason why he's giving them food and water doesn't mean that he loves them. It's all self-interest. That, okay, if I don't give them water, then they're gonna die, and whatever reason I'm keeping them there then evaporates. That they're gonna die, then I don't have it. If like maybe you're having like a sex slave, you have to give them water. You give them water, food, not because you love them. You are doing it for your own self-interest. And most of freedom that we hear today is self-interest. It's self-interest. It's like the person that's claiming to be free while perpetrating tyranny or keeping other people in bondage. In his idea, he's free, but it's a very corrupt idea of freedom. You don't even have to kind of debate this issue; can never be debated. Uh, any person that would want to debate the idea of freedom in that context, they're questionable, even more than questionable, because those two ideas, freedom and bondage, are not compatible, whether it's for you or for somebody else. Now, if the roles had to reverse, if let's say you see that okay, you have a right, your idea of freedom is to keep other people in bondage, and if you imagine it that okay, so that means does the other person that in captivity that I'm holding in bondage have the same right to hold me in captivity? The answer is going to be, oh no, no, no. Whatever weapon they go run for, they're going to get it. I want to be free. So you have to realize that there's a lot of freedom that's completely tied to mental illness. Like where people just don't. There's a lot of mental illness. Our species is like it's part mental illness is part of our species. We have some level of mental illness, all of us. So you can see that this idea of freedom is just crazy. There's some craziness, some level of like craziness, and that craziness leads to wickedness. Because what you do, you think that you are free to keep this person in bondage, but when they try to escape, which in the person, the escapee who's running away, is the idea of freedom. They are running to freedom, like what you call the Underground Railroad. These people, they were followed miles, thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, and these people, that's the idea of freedom. They're running away from tyranny. But this other person, his idea of freedom is to keep these other people in bondage. So when I say that the freedom of tyranny has nothing to do with the idea of like freedom, unless it's that word. I'm not an English speaker, so this will be like my fourth language. So I don't know what freedom in the English language. I've looked for it in the dictionary, but it gives me some kind of like rare definition here and there. The will to to do whatever you want, free and all that kind of stuff, to be free from other people's oppression, whatever it is. You realize that in the end, it's all garbage. It's all uh, just bad people that they can do whatever they want to do because they're violent at the same time. Because if you look at any type of freedom, if somebody had somebody in their basement and that person freed themselves from the chains and they're running away through the back door, the first thing that uh, the the person who's holding them in captivity will do is run after them or pick up his weapon or let his dogs to go and chase for those people. So if somebody can explain to me that there's some freedom there, that this person has freedom, who I don't know who has freedom there. I'm really confused. I'm not even confused. I'm never confused about the stuff. I'm very clear about where I stand about issues of freedom and tyranny and human rights. I'm clear about that. There's no gray areas at all. It's either good or bad. It's either right or wrong. There's no like a straight line, like a gray. Oh yeah, yeah. There's nothing like that in my life. I don't participate in that. And so it's very important that when you belong to a nation, it doesn't matter what kind of a nation it is. When you say like independent nation, you're waving flags. You, as an intelligent being that has like a functioning brain, a brain that's well stimulated, you have to ask yourself, what's the definition of freedom? Is it denying other people to vote? Is that freedom? So if that's freedom, would you be okay if the other people denied you to vote if they had the power? So if your answer is a bit vague and it's just like Ray, and you're just like mumbling over the place, and you're being a hypocrite. What you said yesterday is not what you're saying now. What you said 5 minutes ago is not now, and all that. You know that it's not about freedom, because when you leave another land and tell people that, look, I left my land because they didn't want me to practice this religion, or they were persecuting us, and then you go to a new land, and the first thing that you do is to prohibit the native people from practicing their religion. You're a liar. You're lying. Yeah, you just pretty much like lie. You have no integrity. You have no shame. because those two things are not compatible. You can't run away from persecution, religious persecution, and then you yourself persecute other people. And that has been done in Africa. The missionaries did that, pretty much bringing a story, because in Europe at the time where they're coming from, it's been established that there's certain people that don't want to bother with religion. So if you try to impose your idea, whether it's like religious codes, the religious codes are basically your religious beliefs that you want to impose on other people. Whether it's like oh, I don't do abortion, and so you also don't do abortion, or I don't eat this kind of meat, you also don't eat this kind of meat. Now, in your home country, I'm sure the people there, they will say, nah, you're not going to survive. You're not going to live you're not going to see to live another day. You're not going to live to see another day. Let me put, yeah, you're not going to live to see another day. But it's easier to do that, perpetrate that in a new land where people are not used to that kind of conflict. So you can come in with this idea of freedom and lie to people that you are free, but then you have like 17, 20 people, 40 people locked up, and they're working for you for free, and you call yourself like a free man. So the freedom of tyranny is what now we're confronting, because it's going to come up. Now it's not like people in chains, but now it's going to be denying people maybe how to vote. It's going to be denying people to do this, to do that, because it's tyranny, but it's always like sword in the name of freedom. And so I remind people that almost all evil, almost all wickedness are committed in the name of good. Remember that. There's never been any wickedness or any evil that's been perpetrated in the name of bad. It's always that we're trying to do that. We're trying to preserve this thing. We're trying to do that. We're trying to protect this and all that. So remember that the freedom of tyranny is always going to be with us, and it's up to you how you reject it. I'll suggest that you reject it right out of hand. If you have to be contemptuous, if you have to be rude about it, make sure that they know that, no, we're going to pass not here. They're going to skip your door, or they're going to deal with that. You got to make sure that you have to do whatever you have to do to reject the freedom of tyranny. My ancestors didn't have that luxury, and my grandparents did not, but my father had some, and then came me, I had all of it. Very contemptuous towards the kind of notion and the kind of thinking. I don't like any of it. I have contempt for it, and I have contempt for everybody that try to justify it, to rationalize it. And so the freedom of tyranny is always going to be with us, but it's how we deal with it. See you next time in episode 6, when we discuss another important issue that concerns African people. Thank you.